Good evening, everybody. This is Blessed Barrack coming to you from the Denver, Colorado office. This is our second Facebook Live video, so I think we're getting a little bit better at this, and we wanted to say happy Friday, and I hope everybody had a wonderful day. Today I'm joined by Brad Shank from Prime Lending Mortgage Companies, so he's going to give us a lot of lender tips on kind of how to get your buying process done. Wanted to also thank, we just crossed over 19,000 fans that follow us, so we're kind of really excited about that. Happy New Year, happy 2018. I haven't seen or done a video since the 2018 started, and I hope everybody had a good Christmas and you got to hang out with your family and have a great time. So I guess today we'll just kind of focus on, like we talked about, the lending side of real estate. Of course, we're the real estate agents, and we go out there and show you properties and get you out and pumped up and excited about their home purchase, but we cannot do it without the lenders. You cannot buy a house without the money. So Brad is
unless you got the cash.
Right, unless you got the cash.
That
right,
works as well.
Hard cash or loan, of course. So Brad, his specialty is kind of obviously lending. So I'll just kind of have him introduce himself and kind of talk to you a little bit more about who he is, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I'm Brad Shank. I'm with Prime Lending. I've been doing mortgages since 2009, and it certainly was an interesting time to get going in the real estate and mortgage industry when everything was falling apart. The good part about it is that lending is really a pendulum. On one side of it, back 10 years ago, your dog could get a loan, right? You know, if you had a pulse, you could state your income and you could get it. And then we went through the collapse and it really tightened up, and it was very difficult to be able to get financing. And now we've moved to a middle ground where there's a lot of lending options out there. You know, a lot of clients think they need a 20% down, and that's not true. There's great options with as little as 3 to 5%. There's good grant and down payment assistance programs that can even reduce that further. And it will be a more intensive process. We're going to verify your income. We're going to go through the credit, that those processes are involved. But the idea is that you're being protected so that when you buy a house, you're being positioned for successful home ownership and not just getting into that, just buying the property. So I'll touch a little bit later on more credit and what makes up your credit score and how to effectively build that.
Great. So Brad and myself, we're not just gonna, you don't just call us when you're ready to buy. So we are great resources. If you're starting your process, as Brad will probably tell you, sometimes people are not quite ready, right? It's 6 months, or they may need 6 months or a year to save up. Some people take 2 years to, get ready to buy a home. So take the time to ask questions, call him, email him, text him, and he's very responsive. And I really enjoy his feedback and all the resources that he has. Same thing with us, we know that, don't hesitate to call us yet if you know you're not quite ready. Getting ready is a big process, so we totally understand that. So today we're going to focus on a little more education, and I think it's a good thing because there's a lot of people out there with a lot of questions. So obviously everyone's kind of aware that the economy is on an up and up right now, and then of course real estate is on the up and up. So the biggest question that people have been talking about is, when is the bubble going to burst? When is real estate going to go down, and interest rates and the economy and everybody. So some people are kind of holding off, saying, well, I'm not going to buy now because I'll just wait, right, and see what happens. So maybe I'll have Brad to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that, as to the effects of waiting and if the bubble continues to rise. So I'll kind of hand it over to you for a second.
Well, thank you. One of the things that I will say is real estate is cyclical. It will go up, it will go down. It's not a question of if, but when. A lot of the economists that I follow say we're right in the middle of this cycle. That yes, buying a house 4 or 5 years ago was less expensive.
Right.
But if you look, a couple of years down the road, that same home that you're thinking about today may cost you more in your monthly payment than when you can get it out right now. I had clients 3 years ago say, hey, I'm going to wait till the market softens and then purchase. And the question is, when the market softens, will we ever come back to the levels that we're at right now?
Right.
And especially in the Denver area, it's national, but I know you'll touch on some of the demographics of our population growth and the things that are happening. And you will also look at it. Rates have begun to climb, and a lot of gurus are projecting that will continue to go on for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And there's a lot of factors that are playing into that. But if you're looking at that, if values are increasing, if interest rates are increasing, even if you're saving up for a larger down payment, that property that you might buy 2 or 3 years from now could cost you more on a monthly standpoint.
Right.
I recently had a client say, "Oh, housing's inflated." I said, "Yeah, I totally agree. Housing is inflated, and so is rent." I mean,
Right.
what's your alternative if you're going to continue to have your rent increase year after year after year, versus if you're able to fix in a stable future housing expense that 5, 10, 15 years down the road, yeah, your taxes and insurance will creep up through time, but you're able to fix the majority of what your payment's going to be over a long period of time at a very aggressive interest rate. If you're going to be there for a while, there's certainly some great buying opportunities.
That sounds good. So we did a lot of research today and kind of figured out what's the Denver market been doing. Like, obviously we're in Colorado. I'm sure, like I said, we appreciate every single fan out there, and we appreciate every single click and like and comment. And obviously, if you're moving to Colorado, we would love to, assist you with your next home purchase. And of course, our fans in Colorado would love to assist you with your next home purchase as well. So the Denver market's been seeing a big increase in home values over the last year to year. We're just going to go touch base on a year by year. We'll start by August 2016 to August 2017. The Denver Post reported that there was an 8.2% increase in the home values in Colorado, and that is huge. It's not something that is, it's close to 10%. So obviously that used to take, close to 10 years in the past, but this all increased over just 1 year. And then the Census Bureau has been expecting that Denver market is going to continue to rise because we do have a little more room for growth in Colorado. And over the next 10 years, they expect that our bubble's probably not going to quite burst yet. So, of course, we know that it may level out. We don't expect so much of an increase as it has been right now, but it will continue. They expect it to rise for at least for the next 10 years. And the question is why? Why, right? Because everybody wants to know why. You got to justify the information, because if I'm a buyer trying to kind of engage into that market or thinking about buying or selling or whichever way you're going, the question is, why am I going to possibly do this now and not later, right? So Brad kind of touched on the interest rates, and we've talked about that it would cost you more, and that can be significant over time, right, Brad? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
How much could you add up? Of course, it looks minimal when you look at the payments. You're like, okay, maybe it's just an extra $200 a month or $150, or then it goes to $300. But what could $300 more do for you and your household? Every single month for 20 or 25 years. That is a lot of money, and it adds up. You can use it for your car payment and many other things that you can do, or savings. Save it for college. You've got a little kid. I have a kid, so we've got a long way to go before they're in college, and we can save up a little bit every month, correct? So that's kind of a good thing. So I'll have Brad talk to you a little bit more on maybe touch base on the Elizabeth,
the credit side.
Credit side.
Yeah, that's all right. So a lot of times people don't know what goes into your credit score, your credit report. It's this like big black box, right? That it determines a lot of things. It not only, life's one of those things where if you play now and pay later, or you can pay now and play later. And if you pay the price up front right now, it's less expensive. And the interesting part with lending is it's a risk-based enterprise, which means the people that are a higher risk of default oftentimes pay a higher interest rate. And so the paradox becomes sometimes the people least capable of affording it end up paying the most for it. So the more dialed in you can get about your credit, the better terms of the loan that you're going to be able to get. It also helps with your insurance premiums. I mean, auto insurance, they look at your credit and they find that there's lower claim rates when people have better credit, so you get better insurance premiums.
For sure.
So before I hop into what makes up your credit, the other thing I'll talk about is that there's 16 different FICO formulas that are used to calculate your FICO score. So if you're following one of those credit monitoring sites and it says, oh, great, here's my FICO formula, chances are from a mortgage side of things that a lender is going to use a little bit different of a formula than what your credit card company or your auto lender uses. So it is important to have that evaluation because it can make a difference. So in general, though, 35%, the largest payment or the largest component of your FICO score is made up by what's called your payment history. And this is simply, do you pay your bills on time? And the more that you pay your bills on time, the better that credit grows.
Right.
The next largest chunk, the 30%, is what's called your balances or access to revolving debt that you're not utilizing. So I sometimes have clients that have been through bankruptcy. They said, I'm never going to touch a credit card again. And while I certainly believe in being debt free and paying cash for stuff, credit cards are a great way to build your revolving history because you can pay them off in full every month, and it builds that ongoing credit history where you're not having to pay interest on everything.
For sure.
And it's really good if you have a high percentage capacity available. So if you have a $1,000 limit on a card, when your lender reviews the report, it's good if that balance is at 30% or below. The lower the percentage, the better. Because again, if you're, the credit companies don't know what's going on in your financial life. So if all your cards are maxed out, it's like, is there a negative event going on where they're less capable of affording you debt? Versus if you have good percentage capacity available on the cards you have, that's going to reflect really positively. And that makes up 30% of your score. So that's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
The next biggest chunk, the 15%, this is made up by what's called your average length of accounts. And this is how long your accounts have been open. So the longer your accounts are open, the more favorable that looks. So again, with credit cards, what's great is if you're using them responsibly, paying them off in full every month, you can have those open for years, for decades, and that really plays into that good average length of accounts. Then the last two 10% components are your number of inquiries. So it is true, you do recover the points through time, but whenever somebody reviews your credit, you lose points associated with it. And the idea is you don't want to be opening up a credit card, an auto loan, a mortgage, a home equity line. You don't want to be doing that all at once because multiple debts that you're taking on, you're losing points for those inquiries. And then the last 10% is your diversity of credit. So this is, do you have a mortgage? Do you have an auto loan? Do you have credit cards? Do you have student loans? So a good diversity of accounts really helps build that overall profile. And again, it's why I'm a fan of using credit cards responsibly, is because you can build a great history, build your credit that way. So that was just kind of a little snapshot. There's a lot of good information on myfico.com that has a ton of information on credit. There's some good follow-up videos we can send if you personally request it from us that follows up on credit. And then the last thing I'll touch on for credit is the question, is it beneficial for you to pay collections, right? Let's say that parking bill shows up or that, ticket for $50 pops up and people didn't know about it. It's on your credit. Your lender's saying, oh, this collection came up. So a lot of people's immediate response is, okay, I'm going to go pay that and that's going to help my credit. When a collection occurs, the thing that matters on that collection is not the balance. A $25 collection could be the same as a $25,000 collection in terms of the negative effect on your credit. But what really plays in is what's called your DLA, your date of last activity. And that's typically when the collection occurred. So a lot of times people say, I'm going to go pay that collection. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay collections, but when you pay that collection, a lot of times your date of last activity moves to when you paid it versus when that collection occurred. So if it's a 5-year-old collection, I just went and paid that collection, it could be detrimental to your credit. So it's really important that you're getting advice from a lender that's looking at it and can give you some specifics as opposed to just, hey, I'm going to go pay all my collections, which I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying you should be you should have it evaluated first before you do that, which is kind of a common misnomer.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's very good information, Brett. I think a lot of people, especially with credit score, it's the biggest thing. I mean, you can go in this category for your interest rate or that category or closing costs and et cetera. So the higher the better.
Absolutely.
So,
and some loan programs, it makes a bigger difference than others. Maybe we'll touch on that in a future session.
Yeah, and then we just together worked on a client recently, and we helped her with the Denver Housing Administration Fund because of how real estate has gone up, and a lot of people are kind of I'm sure, I mean, I have to admit that as a realtor, I've always never known so much about what other resources are out there with the government, because typically in the past they took forever to get answers on. It was always the worst process ever, so everybody kind of avoided it. And so now recently, especially with this client that we're talking about, we found that, the people at the Denver Housing Administration were very responsive. And we would send an email back and forth all the time, and they would respond, and they got this lady closed on a property that she could afford in a neighborhood that she probably would have never been able to get into if this house was not marked as a Denver Housing Administration house, to sell it at a price that would get people in and allow them to be able to build a little equity over time. Of course, there's restrictions on income that we had to go through and everything, but again, there's no way she would have been able to get that neighborhood. 4 bedrooms in that neighborhood would have cost, $35,000-$40,000 more, which would have just kicked her out of the category. So it's just kind of good. And I'm kind of getting to learn a little more resources that Denver Housing Administration have, and it's actually good because now the economy and the market is kind of asking for stuff like that. So for people that can afford it, so I think it was very, very nice of you to
She was thrilled.
She was very, very thrilled to get her home. And then, so we kind of get back to the question that we talked about earlier. Said the Denver housing market is supposed to continue to increase over the next few years, and the question is kind of, we say, why? So Denver has been rating a growth of about 1.8% per year, and the rest of the nation has been going about 0.8, which obviously gives about 50,000 people difference per year that are migrating to the Denver metro area. 50,000 people may not sound like a lot, but it's 50,000 people that still need a home, that need somewhere to live, right? So there you've got, the inflation just kind of slowly trickling up, even if it goes 0.1, 0.2, 0.3%, and then it all adds up over time. So that's one of the other reasons. The second reason that was stated on the Denver statistics website is that we actually have the highest millennials in the state, in the nation. Colorado does.
Wow.
They stated that we have kind of a good, nice population of the 19 to 35-year-olds living in Colorado. And they love Colorado because of everything that it has to offer, which we love it here because that's why we stay. The skiing, we've got 300 days of sunshine. It's wonderful. We've got so much to do and touch on, and every day. So the millennials are kind of one of the reasons why Colorado also starts to trickle in on housing and all that, because at that age, most people purchase a home before they're 35. And then they also kind of stated that we've also had a backup in millennials that are still living at home. So we have about 300,000, they say, this is based on 2017 stats. 300,000 that are backed up, still staying at home with their parents. And then when they kind of get to that age where they're like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to leave the nest and I've saved up enough money, and they're in the market and they're going to start buying homes. So they anticipate those millennials to still trickle out for the next 6 years. So slowly they'll be kind of saving their money. They're at home. They're finishing college, mainly grad school, undergrad, the whole 9 yards, saving money, being at home. And then they'll get out there, and then now they're competition, of course. And then they also talked about, we all know that the inventory in Denver has been really, really low. Yeah. So that obviously drives supply and demand, is kind of a simple thing that most everybody understands. There's not enough houses and a lot more people. So now the competition's high in the summer. Recently, not even in the summer, just like now, about a month ago, we had a listing in the Denver metro area again, and this home was on the market for 5 days, and it had over 75 showings in those 5 days, and of which 28 of those people wrote offers on this home, and of course one person can only get it with maybe one backup. So then you got so many other people that are still out there looking at, 28 people wrote offers on the home, and then 26 people are still out there actively really still writing on contracts, just not enough homes. And the other reason why they're talking about that is we all know that people are living longer. The healthcare system is much, much better. A 65-year-old is they look like they're 42 nowadays, and they act like they're 42, and they work out and they do so much stuff. So 65 used to be the age where people would say, okay, I'm going to, minimize my house. I've got kind of go to a smaller house or maybe to a rehab center or nursing home or assisted living. And, the list got bigger and bigger, and people were doing all that stuff. People are not doing that stuff anymore. There's so many options in healthcare. And of course, on the nursing side, we already all know that. But, the home health system, insurance companies are covering more people to stay in their homes. So then they're holding on to their homes. So now there's less on the market again. So that's another reason why they've kind of decided or have factored in that factor that people are staying in their homes longer. They're healthier, you know, they're 80-year-olds still going up and down the stairs in their homes, and you know, they'll stay there as long as they can. So that's one of the other things. And then I'm sure we talked about Amazon. We could hit Amazon. I know a lot of people, Colorado's, you know, we already have a little Amazon center out there, but being the second headquarters is a big deal. And of course, we're in the top 20 at the moment. And of course, Amazon hasn't quite picked where they're going to go, but having Colorado kind of in the hit list of this happening because we have all the growth and everything, I don't think it's a good time to continue to wait, because if it does happen, you know, then we have so many more people moving to the metro area, and it's like, okay, where does it stop? Are you gonna, you know, pay more? Obviously, you're gonna pay more for your house because they are gonna have an average income of $100,000 for their employees. That is a lot of money, and they'll be able to buy more house and, you know, outbid you in any competition. So it's kind of like, you know, why wait? I mean, I know you can kind of wait on the options, but it's just something to consider because it may happen and it may not. So
well, and there's a lot of businesses. I mean, whether Amazon comes or not, it's true. I mean, when companies are looking at their corporate headquarters, Denver's a great location. It's attracting a lot of top talent. People love living in Colorado, and I mean, we're a centralized airport. We can go a lot of places nonstop all over the country. So it's a good place to live. It's
totally
why we live here.
Yeah, and then we also did a little more research on kind of like, you know, just showing you the median home prices in the Denver metro area. So 80134 is basically Parker area, and their median home price right now is at $404,000. You know, back in 10 years ago, it was $250, and now it's $404. And it's like, okay, there's a big jump there in terms of like how much you can afford and how much you can pay on a home like that. Of course, townhomes are still ranging in the $300,000 range compared to what they used to be a few years ago. And then they compared that with just Douglas County. Douglas County, of course, has a little more homes in it, but they're at $427,000 on their median home price, and that's still kind of high, you know. And then the rest of Denver is 410. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, right? And then we compared it with the nationwide coverage. So the whole of the United States, 185,000. That is like a lot, you know. It's almost, I know it's more expensive to live here, but you know, these are the stats. So it's kind of like, should we wait for these stats to kind of keep rising, and maybe they will stumble and even out? They kind of have a little bit, but still, you know, what is going to be in 10 years? Will it be 600,000? Will it be 550 for the median home price? If you're a buyer, maybe you want to take advantage of that and kind of get in and get that all sorted out and be ready for the next market. So,
well, and I would say one more thing with that is, if it's this idea of, hey, I'm just going to buy the house and 6 months from now sell it and make bank, maybe not the best mindset. But if you're saying, hey, I want a place to live and I'm going to be here for a while, there's still great buying opportunities. Half of what you're getting is how low interest rates are. So you're hedging against that future inflation by being able to buy that property. If you've got a long-term mindset, there's still phenomenal opportunities out there.
Yeah, it's just so much better. Of course, would love to sell your home every 5 years because I get a lot of calls. People do that all the time. But yeah, if you can, you know, purchase your home, you know, think about your needs in the next 5 years, 10 years. So you're going to have more kids, you know, if you're going to have more children, if your plan is to have more kids, and automatically don't buy a 2-bedroom place because, you know, maybe, you know, obviously you're not going to share, your kids are going to share rooms until they're like 3 or 4. And then, you know, now you got to go get back into another house. So obviously thinking about your needs, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years is very, very important. And, you know, just encourage you to kind of look at that before you actually purchase and think about the future and build more equity over time rather than just keeping on buying and selling, and buying and selling costs you money. So that's another thing. And then lastly, I think we're going to be wrapping up here shortly, but basically we talked about, we were going to bring out the rental subject as to how much housing is costing in Denver compared to buying. So basically a 1-bedroom place is costing about $1,370, and 2 bedrooms are about $1,750, excuse me. and 3 bedrooms is about $2,000. So a mortgage of $2,000, would kind of benefit you a lot more than to pay rent for a 3-bedroom place with your 2 kids with 1 bedroom each for a while. Of course, over the long term, you're not going to benefit from renting for a long time because you're paying you could almost pay the same amount of money, if not even less, depending on what you get, right?
Sure.
You get a townhome for less than that. People have townhomes that they're paying $1,500 for, but at least they own it. So that's kind of a good thing. So any other tips you wanted to let
I mean, I think that's it.
Yeah.
We might have to leave a little bit for another video.
We'll definitely be doing a lot more. Again, this is our January video, January 22nd. Today's January 26th, 2018. Excuse me, January 26th, 2018. I'm like, oh my goodness, where's the time gone? It's just like, okay, we were in December a little bit ago, and now we're past that and going further. So probably in the next month or two, we'll have Brad come back and we'll do a little more research and tips for you guys and kind of tell you a little bit more about the market and what it's doing at the time. And of course, we'll be getting closer to the summer at that point. So we'll be kind of like in March, kids might be on spring break. So we'll maybe join you about that time or a little bit before. And I'm not, is there anything else you wanted to say?
It was a pleasure. This was fun doing a Facebook Live, my first time doing it.
Oh, awesome. And like I stated before, Brad is really, really good. You don't have to wait out until somebody's ready to buy, or if they have questions, you can always reach out to him or myself. On the real estate side, I can answer your questions. On the lending side, like I said, Brad might take you a little while to get ready, but he's there to let you know what you need to do to get that credit cleaned up or paying down loans and whatever you need to do to get ready. So.
Well, and I will, just touch on that. It is better if you can have that conversation, because if there's some steps that you need to take, paying down some balances on credit cards, maybe opening up another account, the more time that you have to be able to make moves, better versus, hey, I found this property I'm in love with. Can we make it happen?
Yeah.
Hopefully the answer is yes, but if we're able to have a conversation more in advance, you're able to best position yourself for when you're ready.
Right. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate you joining us, and please follow our page, and it's Equity Real Estate Blessed Barrack's Listings, and this is Brad Shank from Prime Lending. And we're going to have a resource link attached to this video, so you can click onto his website and then onto mine for search properties, and you can do more research on your website as to what they need to do. But again, call for any questions or concerns. We're very easy outgoing people, and I hope you can tell that. But we're not going to pester you. We're not going to bother you, because I know that's one thing with real estate and lending. People are like, okay, if they get my phone number, that's it. I'm dead, And it's like, no, we're not. I'm definitely not that type of a person. If you tell us, follow up in 2 to 3 months or 6 months, we'll definitely keep you on our, hit list at some point. Maybe send you a resource here and there. And you can always call every time, but we're not going to really pester you or take your time off, okay? All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you guys have a great one.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.